Hi guys. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Khadir Williams, and I am a Ignite leader with the eighth grade boys. Um, so today I'll be sharing my testimony with you guys. I saw some of the other leaders doing it, and I just felt led to do it myself. So here we are. Um, my prayer is that it can be an encouragement to you guys and a blessing unto you, and for anybody who may stumble upon this, who's not an Ignite or not saved or anything like that. I pray that it could be I pray that it would give you a new perspective on or a different perspective at least on life and the Lord and Jesus Christ and who He is. Um, so yeah, I'll begin by I was born in New Brunswick. I lived in Old Bridge for a long time. For most of my life, we moved to and fro a lot, but a lot of my life was spent in Old Bridge. Um, so quick background. I have one sister. I have two sisters, an older half sister, a younger sister. I have a brother. My brother AJ. He's 4 years older than me. My other sister is, I believe, probably like 8 years older than me. My younger sister is 10 years younger than me. My brother has epilepsy, intermittent explosive disorder. He has he's slightly Asperger's, and he has other things as well that I'm not recalling at this moment. But he my brother has various mental disabilities, and we are all um, children of my two parents. My older half sister is my dad's daughter, without my mom, and the other three of us, my younger sister, my older brother, are all children of my mom, Nelda, and my dad, Ali. And long story short, when I was born, my dad was in my dad shortly after that went into prison. He got out, I would say, probably about 4 or 5 years, probably somewhere between 3 and 5 years after that. I have vague memories of us going to visit him back and forth at the at the at the prison. My mom stood by him through that trying time, and when he came back to live with us, he stayed with us in our house for a while, and eventually my parents decided to move down south. And at that moment, when they were going through that process of moving, they had bought the house and everything. My mom found out that my dad was being unfaithful. So from there, they already bought that house and sold their old one. So my mom had to quickly sell that one too, and we moved back here in an apartment, and they got a divorce. And my dad got, it was my mom got custody, but my dad had visitation rights. And it was a difficult time. My dad didn't really come to visit us at all. I only remember one time, and the one time we did go, um, we were at his new girlfriend's house. He brought us there because that's where he was staying, and it was weird and awkward, and it definitely is not a fond memory. Um, but yeah, from there, it was a back and forth fight between my mom and my dad. My mom trying to get my dad to be a father to us and be in the picture because she grew up with that. She grew up with my grandparents. Um, my grandparents were always together, and they had three kids. My mom's two siblings, and there was always a stable family there. And my mom wanted the same thing, and we moved a whole bunch back and forth trying to get trying to get him to be a father and to be a part of our lives. So we moved around a bunch, like 6 7 times, going back and forth, trying to get him on board. But that wasn't the case. It's not what he wanted to do, and my mom fought a lot with it, and I know she struggled with it. She worked long hours, 12 hours a day, some days, to provide for us that we could have food and all the things that we wanted to have. And I was definitely blessed that she did that, and my grandparents were a blessing unto us as well, providing for us, allowing us to stay over at their house when we needed it. Um, so yeah, from there, when I was 10, my sister was born, and at that point, my mom kind of had the last straw, and she was done with the whole situation. We moved back. At that point, we were living in South Jersey. We had moved probably like six probably times from there, and at that point, we added a few more after that, but at that point, my mom was like, I'm done with this lifestyle or the way we're doing this. So we moved back, and my mom kind of like completely cut off that tie. And about a year later, when my sister was 1, in 2007, my dad passed away in a motorcycle accident. You know, some of us think that it was intentional, his death on his own part, a suicide, because you know he had lost his family and lost his business was not doing very well, and his life was just in shambles. So some people believe that he chose to do that on his own accord. Either way, the result is the same. It was difficult for me because I didn't really have a good relationship with him throughout that time. At the time of me being young, it wasn't a good working relationship or anything like that. And then from there, you kind of lose hope of having one because he passes away. So it was a very difficult pill to swallow. One that I didn't swallow for a very long time. Kind of just sat on it. So we from there, moved maybe a few more times, probably two more times or so, until we settled down in our house. So I was probably in 6th or 7th grade at the time that happened. And then from there, I grew up the rest of my life there, and I graduated high school, went to college, and it was there that all the difficulties of my life really hit me. My family, my older brother, and the difficulties that came along with him and his disabilities and some of his behavior because of that. The difficulties that my mom went through and how she struggled, how I struggled with my dad, and kind of the hole that was left in my heart from not having one. The struggle that I saw because of my friends, they had families that were, the family the way that you want it, two parents working together, and the siblings, all that stuff in one place. And it was a really I started to ask the why question. Why is it there? Why did it work out for them and not for me? And it was a very difficult question and something I struggled with for a very long time. Throughout that time, I fell into depression, anxiety, and a lot of difficulty in my life. And I had one friend who was faithful to. I know that they were praying for me at that time, and they were really really awesome in terms of being there for me and all that. And they kind of introduced me into Christianity, praying, and kind of mentioned Jesus to me. And we went to Catholic church a few times because that was what was around the college, but it wasn't really that. I mean, I remember it, and it was beneficial for me, but it wasn't really the thing that I was looking for. So fast forward again, I graduated college. I was in this place where I didn't know what to do with myself. I was definitely, can't even describe how terrible I felt. I was really depressed and a lot of anxiety about life. And I had this job that was going to make me move away from New Jersey into Colorado, and then from Colorado into any of the 50 states. It was definitely a very stressful time. And at that time, I tried a bunch of self-help books and stuff, and that stuff does not help at all. And from there, I decided on a whim almost to go to a church. And from there, my friend recommended non-denominational, so I picked that and kind of just Googled it. My grandparents lived 10 minutes away from Calvary. That's where I was staying. So it was the first one that came up when I Googled it. And, I just went. And, shout out to Alex. I believe it's Ivashenko or maybe Shevchenko. I always forget. But shout out to him. He was pivotal in helping me. He was very inviting and spoke to me when I didn't know anybody, and he built a relationship with me, and that was awesome. He introduced me to Alan Kahn, who is our youth pastor. So he really got the ball rolling there, and from there, the Lord just changed my life. I remember the Lord was teaching through Matthew in the Sermon on the Mount, and it was one of the things that really spoke to me. He talks about in that how he explains the law to the Jewish people, saying, you've heard it said, don't commit murder or don't commit adultery. But I tell you that if you hate someone in your heart, you've committed murder. Or if you've lusted after someone in your heart, you've committed adultery. And, the Lord, gave it unto me to see and to understand that was talking about me. And all the different teachings in this part of the Bible were talking about me and, the things that I was doing that were not right. And, I recognized that I was in sin. And then, he goes on to say, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate to destruction. Wide is the path, and broad is it that goes to destruction. And I realized that, whoa, I was on that path. And I really wanted to figure out what that narrow gate was and try to find the narrow way in the path that leads to life. And, thankfully I found it in Christ, in Jesus. And, it was, I feel like I had heard it before, but it was the first time that it was really kind of explained to me that, I was under condemnation. I was in sin, and I was destined at that point in time to punishment, to hell eternally for, my iniquity and for the things that I had done. And up until that point, I had always blamed my circumstance. I blamed my dad. I blamed this. I blamed that. But, there is no excuse for the things that I do. Yeah, my dad may have made it difficult for me to find joy in life, but it's not, and to live rightly. But I have to take responsibility for the things that I had done. And at that point, I recognized the Lord blessed me with that wisdom to realize, whoa, like I'm in really rough shape, in terms of my eternity. And it was, the gospel was preached. It was Jesus, was God and is God, and came down and put on flesh, such that he could come and teach us this word, and show us the right way, and show us and teach us what righteousness is, and that we cannot attain it on our own. And that then he came to be the sacrifice for us, Lord, so that I don't have to, so that I and you and anyone else who believes does not have to experience the eternal punishment that is coming upon the world and upon those who don't believe. Upon hearing that, I recognized that, that cross that he died upon was not only for me, but for you guys as well, and for anyone who believes. And he was the sacrifice. He experienced that punishment so I don't have to. And then he rose again so that I could rise with him, at the appointed time. So I accepted that teaching. I accepted that truth. Lloyd preached it and did an altar call. I forget how long after I came, but I responded to it. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to find the narrow gate, and I was going to walk the narrow path. And it says, the way is difficult, and it has been. Even after being a Christian, there's been a lot of difficulty, a lot of struggle. But the Lord is faithful. I mentioned quickly that job that was going to make me move away from here. Right after accepting the Lord, a family friend who had been asking for my resume for years that I've always turned down, even to the point that she texted my mom, and my mom told her, she was like, hey, he already has a job. He got one. And she said, oh, just send it anyway. And it was a job that I'm working now. And I gave her my resume, and one thing led to another, and I got a job that would allow me to stay here and continue to attending the church that I just found, the church that had shown me who Christ was, and that I had came to faith in, and that would allow me to stay with my family and all those things. And I truly believe to this day that was the Lord who did that. He pulled me out of that situation, that undesirable job that was going to make me leave, especially after I had just found a church 2 months after that I would have to have left when I started working. But the Lord had other plans, and he led me into them. And I had to step through a lot of different things since then, and walk through them, and like I said, that narrow path is difficult, but it is the one that leads to life and life everlasting. And I determined at that point, even though I've fallen away, like I've gotten distracted, I've lost my way, here and there, but I determined at that point that I was going to walk that path, and that I was going to. And although, there's ups and downs, the Lord has been faithful to continue to lead me as long as I have been willing. So, yeah, my prayer for you guys is that this can be an encouragement to you that, the Lord is real, and he does work, and he works in all of our lives. Even in us who have had difficult pasts. I know I've committed a lot of sins and things, especially in college, and I've heard a lot of people that I wish I didn't. And I said a lot of things and did a lot of things that I wish I could change. If I'd given the opportunity to still believe in Christ and change those things, I would. But the Lord worked it all out, such that I could be where I am today. So my prayer is that this would be an encouragement to you guys, and for anyone who's watching this who may not believe, or who may stumble upon this video. I pray that this might strike a chord in your heart to search these things out. I feel like it's up to each one of us as humans to consider all things, especially when it comes to our eternity, and what happens to us after this life. And I think we should all be diligent to search those things out. And I know that when I had finally come to my wit's end and chose to do that, the Lord was faithful to respond to me, and he showed me the truth and helped me to walk in it, and he helps me to walk in it daily. So I pray the same thing for you guys. Yeah, shout out to the 8th grade boys. Love you guys. And shout out to Zach Peck. He was my first home group, and it was definitely a blessing unto me. So thank you for that. And shout out to everybody, all my friends that I met at Gradient, Alan, and everybody who's helped me get to this point, the Evans, everybody, because it's been an awesome. Dave Brewer, Jay Falzerano, Pastor Lloyd especially. Thank all of you. I thank all of you guys because it's definitely been quite the journey so far. It hasn't even been 2 years yet, but it's been quite the journey, and I'm definitely thankful for it, and I pray that I can continue walking it. So thank you guys, and I pray that this would be an encouragement to you all. Thanks for watching.